Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? I want to start with what is sort of the big news from the weekend here, and that's the Jameis Winston injury. Just, we could start with your reaction to, I don't know, man, the injury and what it meant on Sunday and going forward for New Orleans.
Well, you lost a guy that was feeling really good about protecting the ball and making enough plays to keep this team in position to be a playoff team and a challenge and to beat a really good Tampa Bay team, which I still would rank as is not the best. They're sure as heck not third best, in my opinion, in the NFC. It's a bummer, because he was making strides as far as protecting the football and doing all the things that you need to do to impress your coach. And then the next level was obviously, we've talked about, expanding the passing game and being a little bit more vertical threat, which they need to do, and take the governor off a little bit. But it sucks. It sucks for him, for the Saints. But that's unfortunately the way football works sometimes. You better have somebody behind him who can play. And I thought Simeon did a nice job as a veteran backup who started games and has experience in this league, and he's a smart guy to come in and do his thing and not try to be a hero, but make enough plays to give their team a chance to win.
Sean, there's two very big questions. Number one is, let's address this first. What do you do with Jameis Winston if you're the Saints? He was on a 1-year prove-it deal. Now he's hurt. So what do you do?
I don't pay him $30 million.
Right.
I can't. $25 million. I just can't do it. But I think he's earned the right to have if you get a first-round pick and want to draft one, I don't see a quarterback in this draft better than him tomorrow. I don't. Now, maybe 5 years down the road, one of these guys turns out. But I think at the top, this is very an average quarterback class. So you say, okay, what do we do in free agency? Now, if you told me that the Saints were willing to jump in on the Deshaun Watson thing in the offseason, I would do it in 2 seconds flat. If you said you could have Watson for 3 first-round picks or keep Winston and hope it turns out, I would grab Watson in 2 seconds flat, assuming the legal stuff's gone. But I don't know as far as free agency who's going to be. I mean, these young quarterbacks, like Jimmy Garoppolo's going to be available. No matter what he does this year, he's going to be on the trade block. No matter what happens, he could take him to the Super Bowl. He's not the quarterback next year. They are moving on to Trey Lance, if not this year, next year. So this is Jimmy's last year in San Francisco. So wherever it goes, maybe you jump into that. You get another guy who protects the football for the most part, isn't an over vertical threat. That's a problem that the 49ers have. They're not exactly explosive on the perimeter, throwing the ball down the field. So probably a good fit for Sean right now, depending on what he wants to do. So I think Jameis has earned the right to compete, and I can understand why somebody would say, let's go, because he's done the things he's been asked to do in this system since he's got the starting job. But if you're saying, how do I upgrade? To me, the upgrade is Deshaun Watson, but you're going to have to mortgage a lot of picks to get him. But if the legal's cleared and it was available and you thought you wanted a quarterback for the next decade plus and he's a stone-cold lock as a franchise guy, then and Deshaun Watson with Sean Payton will be the most gifted quarterback Sean Payton's ever had, if that were ever the case. And that's nobody. I don't have any inside information, but if you want a great player, this dude's going to be available, especially since Miami didn't jump into the fray.
Sean, I mean, it's worth noting for those who don't know, Sean does morning radio on Sports Talk 790 in Houston, so it's obviously right there in the epicenter of the Deshaun Watson conversation. Can you make sense of this for people outside of Houston? I mean, I know the legal situation is there, but he's basically a healthy scratch. Why doesn't Houston seem to want to try to make it work with Deshaun Watson?
He don't want to play here, Matt. It's not a kind of it's like drawn in sand. This is actually, if the Texans went to him tomorrow and said, you want to play the rest of the season, he'd say no. He doesn't want to play here. He's adamant about not wanting to be a Houston Texan under this regime. Listen, before the legal part, for people, we kind of got skewed with the legal stuff, kind of got mixed in with it all. Pre all this, Deshaun Watson wasn't going to play here. He did not want to play. He didn't want to be the head coach in here. He just said, no, I'm not interested. And I think they're to the point where Because if you're David Culley and you want to save your job and get 3 more wins or 4 more wins to push it into another year and you want to feel good about your team, well, wouldn't you play him when Tyrod Taylor gets hurt?
Yeah.
Even if you like Tyrod Taylor, have Tyrod Taylor as a backup, draft Davis Mills for the future. If you really want to save jobs, that's the guy to do it. Or not counting the legal stuff. He didn't want to play here. He was not going to. Had the legal stuff not been there, he may have not shown up to camp but to get his money, he had to. I'm just telling you, tomorrow if they said, "Hey, you want to start next week?" They wouldn't start if they both moved on. This is not a, well, maybe we can work it out. It was done. And the offseason started it that way, and then the legal stuff kind of put it all to rest for both. But Deshaun did not want to play here. And so that's a big part of it. And he's got a no-trade clause, and he didn't like the hiring, and he doesn't trust them for all those different reasons. But that's the sense. You've got a guy who's not on a commissioner's exempt list, who's one of the 5 or 6 best assets in the league at that position, who's coming off the leading passer in the league, who could be playing right now. There is zero stopping him from playing. Nothing. The legal hasn't prevented it. There's no commissioner who's prevented it. He's not suspended by the team. He'll show up to the complex and disappear when he can. He's not nothing, and he's not playing. So that ought to tell you. And they're not playing him because of the legal stuff, because that's pending, and you're innocent until proven guilty, depending on what happens. At least that's the way we've always looked at it. He could be playing. He could start this week, but he's not, because 2 people don't want him to, them and him. That's why he's not playing here, aside from the legal stuff moving forward.
Sean, I want to kind of continue that conversation because we talked big picture about what the Saints do with Jameis and what options may be out there in the future. But the short term is obviously very pressing because you have a team that's 5-2 and has a manageable schedule ahead. So the options right now are Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill, provided Taysom's healthy. If those 2 are both healthy and available, what direction do you think Sean Payton will or should go under center?
I would play Siemian, and I'd use Taysom Hill as I always do. That's what I'd do. And I'm assuming, I don't know. Don't they have, is Ian Book hurt? Is he on injured reserve?
No, Ian Book, he's just been a healthy scratch. They got him on the active roster, and so, they're protecting him so as not to keep him exposed on the practice squad, yeah.
And I understand that. So, maybe you mix snaps there. I mean, Trevor Siemian's played, man, and so is Taysom Hill. I know there's the talk of going out and grabbing somebody, but by the time you get ready, and are you sure that you got to bet that there's somebody outside the program that's not employed by anybody that's worth bringing in and thinks you can instantly make your team better in protecting the football and the passing game than maybe what you already have in missing a full training camp and all that? That's something you have to ask yourself and learning a new system. But my guess is that Sean Payton would think about, unless there's another injury, doing what, if they were that desperate, wouldn't they have traded for somebody or tried to? Don't know if they actually made an effort to, but I actually think that, put it this way, Trevor Siemian can go, I think Jameis is a far more talented guy, but Trevor Siemian can go 14 out of 22 for 145 yards and no picks. He's capable of doing that as well. So I just, now if you're ever going to do all the stretch the field and push it and push Jameis to what we know he was spectacular at, and that's pushing the ball all over the lot, he's protected it, different story. But the way they're playing, it takes an efficient guy to protect the football. The quarterback position, and it's spectacular not to turn the ball over. That is spectacular. But right now, the quarterback in New Orleans isn't being asked to be spectacular. He's asked to protect the football and be efficient. That guy may be already on the roster. Why do you got to go out and try to find somebody else if being spectacular is not the MO of your football team, other than being on defense and a guy named Alvin Kamara?
Sean, I want to ask one follow-up. Last year in a similar situation when Drew Brees got hurt, we saw Taysom Hill start and Jameis was his backup. I'd argue that Jameis is a physically superior talent to Trevor Siemian. While I agree with you, I mean, I'd play Siemian, I'd let Taysom be in his Taysom role. Did Sean Payton kind of tip his hand a year ago and tell you, this is what he's going to do? He's committed to making Taysom Hill a quarterback?
Yeah, maybe. And, great ones have an ego. And I don't mean that negative. Sean Payton's one of my favorite coaches in this league and has been for a long time. And if that guy believes in Taysom Hill, and the team does, and Taysom Hill is bought into what Sean teaches, and he knows what's going on. He's been around Drew Brees, been in the system long enough. And once again, what Taysom Hill brings is a spectacular Swiss Army knife that can beat you in more ways than one. As long as the passing game he plays smart. And every now and again, I told you, and I've told you this in the past, I said at some point they're going to have to be into a throwing contest where that guy's going to have to throw for 350 at that position and win and throw 3 touchdowns, play from behind and play chase. And if Taysom Hill's capable, we've seen him make some great throws, but the consistency of it, maybe. And I think Sean trusts him, and the trust factor is so important. If the quarterback trusts the coach and the coach trusts Taysom Hill will do that, and you make Trevor Siemian the backup, and you're continuing to work with Ian Book, I don't see how that's a detriment. Because once again, the spectacular that Taysom Hill brings is with his feet and doing some magical things on the edge and on the RPO. And Sean would change his play calling a little than when Drew Brees is in there. Obviously, it's a different plan. So if you believe, again, that you got a guy that will protect the ball and not throw it to the other team and can complete 65% of his passes in that 63 to 65 range, then guess what? You're not going to get spectacular, oh my gosh, play in the passing game out of his position in New Orleans this year. Hard for New Orleans Saints fans to hear considering Drew Brees and all the great stuff he's done. But that's not how you're winning a championship. Don't turn it over, protect it, make plays when needed. And if Taysom Hill's a guy now to extend it the way defenses have to defend the Saints, you will have to defend them different than you would when Jameis Winston was playing because of the ability of Taysom Hill to do different stuff out of RPO and that. So I can completely see Taysom Hill starting at quarterback and Trevor Siemian being the backup and doing what he does coming off the bench. Completely see that. And Sean Payton's a damn good coach, and if he sees it on the practice field, we've seen the movie before, I think he trusts him enough to count on him on Sundays.
Sean, the other 2 veteran names that have been brought up are Cam Newton, tons of ties, obviously, in the NFC South with Carolina, and then Phillip Rivers has actually did an interview in Mobile and gave another interview, I think, to the LA Times, where he said, look, if the Saints call, I mean, it's a long shot, but I can be ready. Do either of those seem plausible?
Plausible, maybe. Probable, I wouldn't think so.
It's an important distinction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I would probably say that it's a possibility that you make the call. Now, I would think that Phillip Rivers, with his Cam's a bigger physical presence right now. Phillip Rivers kind of brings you, he pushed the ball down the field a little bit in Indianapolis, but he's a tough pocket guy that will deliver the football. And if he's got good protection, he's still in that 0 to 15, 20-yard range. He can still make those throws. Now, and we know he's a tough competitor, so that works. With Cam, you're going to get a more spectacular talent. The question you ask yourself is for both guys, how quickly do they learn the system? Which one, verbiage-wise, understands it more? And is there any crossover to any coach or any system they've had throughout? Cam's going to run RPO, which you have with the Taysom Hill stuff, and Phillip Rivers isn't going to do that. You're going to run stretch plays, inside zone. You're going to throw the ball. You're going to play action different than Cam or Taysom Hill may do it. But Phillip Rivers, they're both good options for different reasons. One's going to move and extend plays. The other's not going to move off his spot 6 inches. I think they're both high competitors and have something to prove. The question is, which one can you get ready faster, and which one will protect the ball more? So I don't know. I think there's a phone call to an agent to see where they are, and I think both of them would love it. I think they both want to compete. But Sean Payton has to decide is which one will the guy upgrade our football team, not by name and reputation, by performance. Name and reputation, you'd already done it. Mm-hmm. But by performance and what we're trying to accomplish here, does Phillip Rivers or Cam Newton get done what we want to get done after no training camp with us, and we're at the midway point of the season? Can they conceivably give us better chance to win when we get to December and January after they get this thing down? That's what Sean would have to figure out. But, again, I don't think spectacular is what Sean's looking for this year, because I think we're beyond that. There's going to have to be spectacular plays made once in a while. But right now I think Sean wants to hit singles, and if it turns into doubles and home runs and extra base hits, he'll take them. But if you can hit singles right now with their defense, you can play in New Orleans.
All right, I'll ask you the last thing. 5-2, 10 games to go. Are the Saints a playoff team?
They are.
Okay.
They've got the asylum alone. Now that Derrick Henry's out, you've probably got the best, we've discussed it, Matty, the best non-quarterback asset maybe in the league, at least offensively, when it comes to how many times they'll have to touch the ball. Listen, if you were they 5-2 right now? Is that what we said?
5-2. Yeah, 5-2 with 10 to go.
So with 10 games to go, if they go 5-5, that gets them to 10-7. And you should be staring at a wild card or close.
Mm-hmm.
If you would get to 6-4 with a pretty favorable schedule, as you mentioned, you're in the playoffs. So they would have to, their defense would have to be banged up and go to hell in a handbasket. Kamara may have to miss the team bus, or the quarterback position would just have to go completely into the tank where they can't do it. But I think before it got to that point, Sean would make adjustments. If the quarterback position, you're like, oh my gosh, where's this going? Then you may see an outside body come in if they felt the guys in-house couldn't do what they're trying to do. But you got smart guys and you got some playmakers and a hell of an organization. I think it would be, even without Jameis Winston, because the way they were playing, I think it would be a major downfall for this football team not to make the playoffs in the NFC. And there's some good top-heavy teams in the NFC, but the Saints defense can beat them, as they proved that against Tom Brady. Even though he threw 4 touchdowns, they created some problems, and here they are with a chance to make the playoffs. I think it would be an epic fail if they didn't make the playoffs, even without their quarterback.
Always great stuff, Sean Salisbury. I'll follow him on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. Weekday morning, Sports Talk 790 there in Houston, and with us here on Tuesday afternoons. We appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.